March 5th, 2014 meeting of the Pasadena Area Community College District, regular business meeting number 6. Ms. Thompson, will you call the roll, please?
Dr. Fellow,
Here.
Ms. Brown,
Here.
Ms. Waugh,
Here.
Dr. Mann,
Present.
Mr. Martin,
Present.
Dr. Selvage,
Here.
Mr. Thompson,
Present.
Mr. Fraser.
Thank you. Will our attorney explain our closed session items this evening?
Yes, President Fellow. Our items for closed session tonight are collective bargaining with PCCFA, lead negotiator, superintendent president, pursuant to Government Code Section 54957.6. Also, conference with general counsel regarding pending litigation, one matter, pursuant to Government Code Section 54956.9A. And last, public employee appointment, director of institutional effectiveness and planning, pursuant to Government Code Section 54957.
Thank you very much. Are there any public comments about our closed session agenda items this evening? Seeing none, we will report to closed session. The board did approve Crystal Colris as the new Director of Institutional Effectiveness. And Crystal, congratulations. Mr. Martin, will you lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance?
Oh, gladly. If you'll join with me, I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. At this time, I will entertain a motion to approve the minutes of the February 1st, 2014 retreat.
So moved.
Do you want to do them individually? I'm going to do them all together. The February 5th, 2014 regular business meeting and the February 19th, 2014 study session. And we have a motion by Mr. Fraser and a second by Dr. Mann. Any questions or corrections?
Me.
Or Ms. Waugh, any corrections?
That's why we should have lights.
All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, motion carries.
Wait, one mom, I need to abstain from the February 19th meeting. I wasn't
One
here.
abstention from February 19th. Okay. Trustees, are there any introductions or recognitions this evening? President Rocha?
I have none, President Fellow.
Okay. This is the time for public comments on non-agenda items. I believe we have 4 speakers this evening. Ms. Waugh?
Yes, we have 4 speakers. The first speaker is Eduardo Cairo, will be followed by Melissa Michelson.
And please note that you have 3 minutes.
Will do. Thank you very much. Good evening, Board. The Academic Senate Executive Committee would like to express its satisfaction that CAPA meetings will henceforth be conducted according to the Brown Act. It is our opinion that these new arrangements will enhance clear and transparent communications. We have met with the administration at CAPA on Monday, and while we did not resolve any outstanding issues, we at least brought them out for discussion. It is our hope that we can address the issues involving academic matters that under Title V and Board Policy 2000 require mutual agreement. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Hello. Hello, I'm the acting chair of the Academic Senate's Town Hall Committee. A few weeks ago, on behalf of the entire Academic Senate and the committee, I emailed each board member and Dr. Rocha an invitation to participate in the next town hall. In the letter, I described how the ACCJC recommends that PCC engage in a college-wide dialogue of matters of mutual concern to promote quality and integrity and improvement. I explained that the purpose of the town hall that was conceived and later ratified by the Senate was to facilitate discussion amongst campus constituents of campus climate concerns and possible solutions. It has been the board's choice not to participate in that, despite the fact that no Brown Act regulations would be violated if a few of you came. You chose to send 6 pages of a response back to me and the entire school. Many I've talked to thought it was mistakenly sent to them and deleted it as it didn't pertain to them because it was addressed to me. Today, I continue diligently in my role as chair of the committee and sent out a reminder email for faculty and staff to fill out the survey that accompanies the town hall. Within the hour, I received an email from the PCC General Counsel, Gail Cooper. I'm here to tell you that the Academic Senate has every right to conduct town halls and every right to conduct surveys. I understand that you and the Senate executive are going to meet soon. I hope that the entire board and Ms. Cooper will use that as an opportunity to educate yourselves on Title V, shared governance, and the functions of the California Academic Senates. Thank you.
Thank you.
Tamara Rosea, sorry, and followed by AC Pinella.
Hello, dear Board of Trustees. I'm a student at the PCC, and I want to bring to your attention that a winter semester is very important for students, especially for international students. Me, myself, is very disappointed at PCC no longer having winter semesters. My friends are also upset, but they're too shy to come, maybe because of their English. I returned to the school particularly because I really liked the system in the school when I attended here 4 years ago for the first time. Now that I'm back and I changed my major, I'm very disappointed that there will be no longer winter semester. I have to take more classes in one semester, and my grades might not be as good as I want them to be because I will have much more classes in one semester. I don't have enough time to take 12 classes a year. I was hoping that I can take 16, 18 classes in 1 year so I could transfer sooner. I'm taking, particularly right now at this semester, 7 classes to accomplish the classes that I need to accomplish before transferring. But it makes it so much harder to get a good grade. If I don't pass a class or I get a letter C or D, my GPA will go down, and it's going to make it so much harder for me to transfer. And I have noticed that taking more than 3 or 4 classes in one semester is very difficult to completely understand everything for me, particularly as an international student, and get a good grade. I wish that I had more semester to spread these classes on. As a result, fewer semester leads me to stay longer in school, and if I don't take more classes, then I should. Also, I know some of my friends who are international students do not have much more time to be in US, and they are also trying to complete their classes within 2 years. But now that means that they might have to stay extra year in the country and spend more money on cost of living as a result. Some of them have chosen to go to different schools that do have winter semesters. Also, it is very frustrating that I don't even know when the fall 2015 will start. How can anyone make the plans? It is not wonder that students are leaving PCC and going to schools that is more organized and clear for students. I know that other schools have their calendars posted ready in advance.
Thank you very
much.
AC Pinella.
Hi, and thank you very much. I'm coming here for 2 reasons today, and both to thank you. The first thing that I want to thank you for is this week, I'm first putting on my student advisor hat for the Associated Students. This week was March in March. We brought a delegation of students to Sacramento, which I'm sure you'll hear later on in the Associated Students report, and it was a really successful lobbying trip. Our students, you would have been both proud of them in terms of the way they conducted themselves and the work they did with our legislators. The second reason that I'm here is I want to make an announcement and thank you for your support of professional learning on campus. I've also been collaborating with the Academy of Professional Learning, and we have a couple of big things that have happened in the last year. We have faculty who've been effectively enrolled in program review courses, so they are more able to engage with the program review process. We held a GE colloquium recently that looked at how we're designing and engaging our GEs. For classified staff, we've held a couple of pretty effective professional learning days, and we've started to buy new technology that I wanted to talk to you a little bit more about. One of the things that we've done is in we're currently in the process of filling the gap around technology, training, and needs. We've purchased a subscription to lynda.com, which will actually be open to all employees of PCC and folks like yourself who have a PCC email address. This is a great way to start to get an introduction to things like online learning, but also learn direct collaborative skills around not only technology, but things like management tips. Earlier today, we met with the Management Association, showed them how they might be able to use this with other employees on campus, and even be able to create kind of coursework for themselves while having an online support system. So with that, I want to thank you all for your time and your support of professional learning on campus.
Thank you. That's it, thank you. At this time, we will turn to our consent items, and there is a correction. I have a note here, consent item 111B, to approve, ratify, amend contracts was revised. AB 98560 corrects the department name, and B 98561 corrects the vendor name. So that is a correction. Is there any, the trustees want any item pulled from the consent calendar this evening? Mr. Thompson?
15S.
15S.
I also wanted to speak on 15S.
Okay, Dr.
I also want to speak on 15S, and I want to speak on 20I.
Okay.
I'd like to speak briefly on abstain and do a separate vote on 116B.
116B, separate vote. So outside of 16 and 15S and 116B, can I have a motion to approve the consent calendar?
Move approval.
Second.
With a motion from trustee Brown, a second from trustee Frazier. Any further discussion? All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed, motion carries unanimously. Let's turn to 15S right now. Mr. Thompson?
I just wanted to say that I've expressed concern in the procedure we follow in selecting a commencement seeker before, and I think that I don't know if this is the time to decide this or not, but I think that the board ought to have the authority to select the commencement speaker. I mean, some of the people on here I think I know very well, and they would be excellent. That's not the point, but I think that it's the process I'm not clear about, and I think the board itself ought to be the ones with the authority to select the speaker for commencement, not in a vacuum perhaps, but at least have that authority.
Thank you, Mr. Thompson. Dr. Mann?
Yes, I have a couple of comments on the commencement speaker list. 1997-2013, Dr. Stephen Sample was the president of the University of Southern California, not the president of the University of California. I think that's a rather significant error. And then on the list of commencement speakers, it's my recollection that Justice Joyce Kennard has already been a speaker here. I remember her speaking, obviously, before this list, because otherwise I think she's an excellent choice. She's an alumna, and she's distinguished, but I think she has already been a speaker here.
Thank you. Ms. Wah?
Yes, since I chaired the Community Outreach Committee and Trustee Brown and I participated with the Commencement Committee, I did have a report out to the board. I don't know if it actually got into your packets, but just to give you a little history, there wasn't really a strong process, and that was one of the things that the committee and I discussed, and I think that they now know that they have authority to come out and put together a more structured process, start a little earlier, and get a little more input. But there were about, 30 names, I think, that they originally started with. And so one of the things I suggested is that, that you look at speakers who would be viable, able to, certainly speakers that would be most likely to come to this, to the college and be able to speak. So it wouldn't be someone like, well, I guess Obama could be a possibility since he is going to, I guess, UCI. But, we wouldn't have had enough time to have solicited that. But I also thought it was important that we consider the commencement speakers who resonate with the students. While we may all, as a community, have people that we like, I think that there should be someone who resonates with students. And then there were a number of other things that were outside the commencement committee decisions, and I know the board had expressed various desires to be involved and to give input to either pre or post-event commencement events, and so I hope that we will be having those further discussions. And one of the other things that came up is it might be nice for us to actually have a theme of commencement ahead of time so that we kind of know, we can develop the events around that. So that was some of the thinking that came out. And so when the committee went through those 30 or so speakers, they decided, okay, these are the ones who were most viable, and then it was really the committee who then voted and said, this is the slate that we want to present before the board.
Thank you. And tonight's action is to approve this slate that is brought forward. Mr. Thompson does bring up an important point.
Perhaps I can be helpful, since I've been here, the commencement speakers we have had, I know at least 2 of them, were not on the original list. So I think the process holds that if, for example, the speakers that have been recommended are not able to come, or if the board makes another recommendation, or if there's some late-breaking item like Dr. Biden has, Jill Biden has decided to come, and so on, that I think in the past we've taken that back to the commencement committee and said, this is what we came up with, is that okay? And we just came to agreement that that's the way we'd move forward. So in approving this list, I guess my question is, but I'm taking this as the list we would work from, but that, if circumstances suggested that there was some other, candidate that the board recommended, it wouldn't preclude the board from forwarding that candidate, to the committee, would it, Dr. Bell?
Dr. Roach, no, it would not preclude the board from bringing another candidate forward. The primary concern, I think Trustee Waugh indicated, is the shortness of time we have to secure a speaker.
Right.
And so that's one of the things which is of paramount importance. But if another name did come forward outside of this slate, obviously we would and could pursue that.
Yeah.
Why don't we do that? Why don't we say by Friday, if a board member has another name, they should get it to you?
That would be fine.
Let me clarify. I'm not suggesting that we ought not to work from this group of people. What I'm saying is that I think it's the board who ought to decide who the speaker is.
Yeah.
And I'm happy to have the process be as it has been, and we were given a list of 8 or 9 people, whatever the number is on this list, and work from that. But I think we ought to have the authority to make the final selection.
Would it be okay with you? I was going to have this go to Dr. Mann's committee for policy review, and perhaps it should be selected by the Board of Trustees. Dr. Mann?
I was going to say, that's what I was going to suggest. After consulting with a trustee Wall, I did look at the board policy, which is just almost nothing. And I think it's something we should look at. And actually, what we really need to look at more than the board policy so much is the procedures, because my recollection was we had kind of a detailed criteria that the committee was supposed to use, but apparently it was not part of the procedure. So I think it is something we should look at. And maybe, Ms. Koros, we can get this in our review process, bring it up early rather than late.
Okay, thank you. Mr. Frazier?
I do want to just remind my colleagues of what commencement's about. And, this is a celebration of students on campus who are achieving something. And I think it's fair to say that, having a process which gives or empowers the students and the faculty and the staff who are in the particular year some ability to at least make that recommendation, which all this is again, a recommendation on a consent for us to approve anyway, is important. This isn't as much a community event as it is really the only thing that we do. A lot of what we do is centered around, not just our students and our campus community, but our larger community. I would argue that commencement is really just a celebration for the campus community and for the students here, because this is their final pinnacle moment of PCC. And so empowering those people to decide who they want to represent them as that speaker. And I'm not saying, of course, the board shouldn't have its input, and obviously it comes to us as consent for approval anyway. I just think that, the process as it works allows for the commencement committee to really get the pulse of the community that's here right now and say who is appropriate for this year, for this time, what represents the college now, and who represents the student body now. And so that would be my argument to say that while I think always, ultimately, every decision that comes to the board packet lies with the Board of Trustees, empowering the campus community with this decision is appropriate in my mind.
Thank you. What I'd like to do, if there's a consensus, is to approve this list and to bring this back to the policy committee. I don't want to get into a debate this evening on this.
I have a question about the list. Are these individuals that are on the list aware that they are under consideration?
I believe what the committee decided to do, and Dr. Bell and Professor Griffith will be working with this list, and they'll be contacting people. And we've already identified a few of these candidates, these nominees, who have already been contacted. So I believe Trustee Frazier has already begun discussions with Lance Black, and there were several others that discussions had already been initiated.
Okay, thank you. Mr.
Wouldn't it be more appropriate to place some order of priority or something? I mean, it just seems to me to be almost a waste of time to start contacting 8 or 9 people and say, could you be available if we decide to? I mean, I think we ought to pick somebody and then see if that person's available. If she or he is not, then go to number 2 and move.
That was discussed in the committee, and I believe Dr. Bell is going to be working with Professor Griffith, and they're going to go through and do that.
But again, I think while I have no quarrel with the entire college having input into the list, and that has happened, I think that's entirely appropriate and essential. But at some point, there has to be a decision-making body that says, okay, this person is going to be choice number 1, this one number 2, and go on. And I don't hear that coming to life.
Thank you. Bill, Mr. Thompson, is that okay if we move this to the policy committee and
Sure.
come up with some?
But I mean, except that,
Except for this has to be done now.
Yeah, we're going to.
I mean, it's okay to approve the list. I have no quarrel with that, whatever. It's where do we go from here? That's the uncertainty.
Yeah, and we're going to go to the committee, and we'll come back for a full, robust debate. At this time, I'd like to have a motion to approve this list.
Second.
We have a motion from Ms. Waugh and a second from Mr. Frazier. Any further discussion? All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, motion carries unanimous. We now turn to, action item number 16, consent item 16. Ms. Waugh.
16 what?
15, let's see, 20I was the one
20I?
I had.
20I?
And I actually had just posed this to the administration, and I did get an answer. But I guess I just wanted to comment, internships and workforce development issues have been something that I've really been trying to work on with the community and helping partner. And so I think this is great, and I was satisfied with the answer I got. But just once again, what I hope to see is, I'd like to see the report on the internships and where we're going, how that program is moving. And I know the overall goal of the college was to have a college-wide internship program developed, and I'd like to see where we are on it and whether or not that's going to move forward.
Okay, thank you. And this item tonight for the audience is to approve and ratify instructional activity, career and technical education collaborative core grant. Is there any other comments? If not, I will entertain a motion to approve 20I. We have a motion from Ms. Waugh, a second from Trustee Brown. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed, motion carries unanimously. And the final item this evening is at 16B for a separate vote. Mr. Frazier?
So I did ask the administration to give me a couple answers, and I'm still trying to word my query in a way that I can get the answer I want. I had a question over a purchase of a tool, and until I get more information on it, I'm not comfortable voting on it, so I'd rather abstain, and that's specifically the self-service reset password management tool. My question has generally been, are we not better served with the tools that already exist within the server software? Since I haven't fully explored that, I'd just like to abstain from this one.
Okay, thank you. I'll entertain a motion to approve.
So moved.
We have a motion from Dr. Mann, a second
I'll second it.
from Trustee Brown. Any further discussion? All in favor signify by saying aye. Aye, opposed, motion carries unanimously.
And I'd like, President Fellow, I'd like my abstention recorded.
And one
just to be sure.
abstention. Thank you. We now turn to other action items this evening. The first is item F this evening is the public hearing regarding joint initial proposal for successor agreement for 2014-2017 from the Pasadena Area Community College District to the Pasadena City College Police Officers Association. At this time, the public hearing is open. The public hearing is closed. Item number G this evening is the public hearing regarding joint initial proposal for successor agreement for 2014-2017 from the Pasadena City College Police Officers Association to the Pasadena Area Community College District. The public hearing is open. The public hearing is closed. Item number H this evening is to receive and set a public hearing regarding initial proposal for negotiations for 2014-2017 from the Pasadena Area Community College District to the California School Employees Association, Chapter 777. It's recommended that the Board of Trustees, A, receive the initial proposal from the Pasadena Area Community College District to CSEA for negotiations for 2014-2017, and B, designate the next regular meeting of the Board of Trustees as the time for receiving public comment regarding the initial proposal from the district. I will entertain a motion at this time.
So moved.
We have a motion from Mr. Frazier, a second from Ms. Waugh. Is there any further discussion? Trustee vote? Student trustee?
Aye.
All in favor signify by saying aye. 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 Opposed, motion carries unanimously. Item number J this evening is to receive and set a public hearing regarding initial proposal for negotiations for which one is it?
President Fellow, I think we're on item I.
Oh, excuse me. Excuse me. The agenda was changed by the time I did this. Item I this evening is to receive and set public hearing regarding initial proposal for negotiations for 2014-2017 from the California School Employees Association, number 777, to Pasadena Area Community College District. It's recommended that the Board of Trustees, A, receive the initial proposal from CSEA to the Pasadena Area Community College District for negotiations for 2014-2017, and B, designate the next regular meeting of the Board of Trustees as the time for receiving public comment regarding the initial proposal from the district. I will entertain a motion at this time.
So moved.
We have a motion from Dr. Mann, a second from Ms. Waugh. Any further discussion? Student trustee?
Aye.
All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed, motion carries unanimous. Item J this evening is to receive and set a public hearing regarding the initial proposal for negotiations for 2017, from the Pasadena City College Faculty Association to the Pasadena Area Community College Districts, and it's recommended that the Board of Trustees, A, receive the initial proposal from the Pasadena City College Faculty Association for negotiations, and B, designate the next regular meeting of the Board of Trustees as the time for receiving public comment. I will entertain a motion at this time. We have a motion from Ms. Waugh
I'll second.
and a second from Trustee Brown.
I think you said 2017, it says 2015.
2015, excuse me, yes.
President Fellow, before we go to a vote on this one, I just want to make a brief comment in that, I think the point of these public hearings is so that the public has an opportunity to see both sides of a negotiation and to then offer a comment before negotiation actually happens. And I know will go into closed session after the public hearing, but I'm a little concerned that the initial proposal here, if I'm a member of the public, is rather barren. And so I'm not sure that this is enough fair information for the public to be able to come and comment. That would be my only comment on the proposal before we go to a vote.
I'm sure there's more on the website, isn't there? There's more information on the website, isn't there?
General Counsel, any,
In fact, Trustee Frazier is correct. The proposal is not sufficient under the law to constitute an initial proposal. The law requires that the proposal identify the articles, the topics, and the topics of negotiation, and this does not do that. Generally, the topics of compensation and working conditions are the subjects of negotiation. So this doesn't identify anything in terms of what's in the contract to be negotiated.
a question from me, General Counsel. If the board was to approve this, would the board reserve its, that is, to receive and set a public hearing on this document? Okay, would the board reserve its right at the public hearing to query any representative of the Faculty Association to try and be more detailed?
Absolutely, and even before then, President Rocha, the board can certainly request the Faculty Association to identify the subject matter of its initial proposal prior to the public hearing so that the public is on notice of the subjects of negotiation.
Yeah. And for the record, trustees, I would note, and in fact, I think Bruce Barsook was kind enough to be here, that we have communicated with the Faculty Association, and if you approve this item, which is merely to receive and set a public hearing, we have a scheduled negotiating meeting for Friday at 10 o'clock. So.
And so the object, we can go ahead and set the public hearing. And if they want to come forward with a proposal, fine. If not, there's no proposal. I will entertain a motion to approve the public hearing for the next regular meeting of the Board of Trustees.
So moved.
I have a motion from Dr. Mann, and I will second it. All in favor, trustee vote?
Abstain.
All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, motion carries unanimously. Item number K this evening deals with the PACCD Equal Employment Opportunity Plan. And it's recommended the Board of Trustees adopt the proposed EEO plan. And you all have this information within your packets. Is there any additional information this evening, President Rocha?
Yes, thank you, President Fellow. I call to the podium the Executive Director of Human Resources for Pasadena City College, Terry Hampton. And Terry is going to make a brief presentation on the EEO plan, and then she will take your questions. The item is for your approval so that we can submit this compliance document to the State Chancellor's Office. I think, and I'm sure Terry will also relate that the document has reached you after extensive consultation through the shared governance process. So with that, I introduce the Executive Director.
Good evening, everyone. Thank you for allowing me this opportunity to present our Equal Employment Opportunity Plan. While I had initially planned to spend my time this evening discussing the statistical information that you received in the report, as a result of the numerous questions that we've received, I have decided to focus my brief presentation specifically on addressing those questions.
Okay.
So, the EEO plan and its statutory authority. Well, the California Code of Regulations requires that each community college district have on file an equal employment opportunity plan. In addition to the Title V guidelines established in the California Code of Regulations, the California Education Code, specifically Section 87100, requires that community college districts pursue academic excellence, in part by ensuring their students are able to learn in climates that are diverse and open. So while the district does not have to necessarily use the template that is recommended by the State Chancellor's Office, in an effort to ensure that we captured all of the required components of the plan, we chose to use that document. So what you have and what you've had an opportunity to review is our data simply dropped into the State Chancellor's model plan. So when we talk about, because I got a lot of questions in relation to various aspects of diversity here on campus. And the truth is, the majority of those questions actually dealt with issues that were outside the realm of our Equal Employment Opportunity Plan. So while the district is certainly focused on inclusive excellence and a myriad of different approaches to ensure that our campus is diverse and equitable, this plan is specifically related to employment. So it doesn't address other things outside of the area of employment. And that's very difficult to read, but basically it describes the various types of equity and diversity issues that a campus might be confronted with and how to deal with those things. And a single component there is a diverse staff and workforce. And that is what our EEO plan is focused on addressing. Now, we confronted a number of problems in relation to the EEO plan. Most of that was in relation to the fact that the State Chancellor's Office requires that we use their data to arrive at our representation numbers. And unfortunately, because of all of the problems that the state of California has had financially, they were not able to do many of the things that the plan was designed for them to be able to do. So we were not able to get from the State Chancellor's Office information related to utilization because the plan initially called for the State Chancellor's Office to provide that data. They, for a number of years, had the school districts in a holding pattern waiting for that data. Ultimately, in 2012, they decided that they were never going to be able to provide that data, and they wanted the districts to go forth and develop their EEO plans absent that data and come up with their own ways to assess utilization or underrepresentation. Another issue that we came up with was the fact that midstream, the federal government changed the EEO job reporting categories. So one of the problems that we had was in relation to our ability to effectively map the data. So what you see in the reports is things that look a bit skewed in relation to, for example, our professional categories. Because the data wasn't mapped correctly, it's not showing up correctly. But we are hopeful that we can get that resolved, and I am excited about the fact that based on the fact that our new talent management system will be in place soon, we will be able to keep better information in relation to our employees. And that leads me to my next point in relation to our applicant analysis. Component 11 of the plan requires that school districts look at the makeup of their applicant pools. Unfortunately, because of the systems that we have here, we were not able to do that. So going forward, we will be able to conduct that analysis through the use of our new talent management system. But that data doesn't exist in the current plan that you have before you today. Also, go to the next page. So I also got a number of questions about this matter of significant underrepresentation and what does that mean. So I went back and I looked at how we had laid the information out in our EEO plan, and it appeared to me that it could have been much more clear. So what we are going to do is actually take the language from Title V, as you see it there, and drop it into the document so that people clearly understand what significant underrepresentation refers to. So in an effort to resolve that issue, like I said, we have gone back and replaced the definition for significant underrepresentation with the exact language from the Title V section. And As I indicated previously, the state chancellor was supposed to provide us with utilization information, but because of finances, they weren't able to do that. So we had to make that determination on our own. Now, one of the things that we did in relation to that was speak extensively with the state chancellor's office in regard to how we might go about making that determination. And what they suggested to us is that in terms of the question of underrepresentation, they suggested that we use as a rule of thumb 15%. And in terms of significant underrepresentation, you have the definition there, and it's when the monitored group accounts for less than 80% of the group with the highest number of employees in it. So in relation to this matter of underrepresentation, significant underrepresentation, we get to the question of adverse impact. And so one question that was posed to me was, well, where did that number come from? How is it that the state chancellor's office chose to use that 15%? And what I have been able to determine is that the Title V guidelines related to defining underrepresentation are based on the federal government standards established as a rule of thumb for assessing adverse impact. So essentially, the 4/5 rule or the 80% rule. Those guidelines say, as I had previously indicated, that when you have a situation where a selected group accounts for more than 80% of the monitored groups, then you have what is called adverse impact. Now, the reason that the state of California and the federal government chose to take this approach, and the state of California, because they always want to be a little bit different than the federal government, instead of referring to it mainly as adverse impact, the terminology that they use and that you will see throughout our EEO plan is significant underrepresentation. So the Civil Rights Act of 1964 established that employment decisions based upon protected status was unlawful. And the United States government, as a result of that determination, chose to adopt the guidelines for employee selection procedures and the uniform standard. And so that is where that 15% and 20% come from. So in determining adverse action, in order to make that determination, an employer has to compare the group with the highest selection rate with the other groups that they are comparing to. And again, in California, the terminology that we're using is significant underrepresentation in that regard. So what do you do when you determine that there is some level of underrepresentation? Well, you go back and you look to see whether or not you have any non-job related factors that are causing that underrepresentation. And if in fact those non-job related factors are impacting it, then it's suggested that you remove them. So in terms of significant underrepresentation, it's not a requirement that you stop your recruitments. What it is requiring, and what it does is it acts as a trigger. So when you're looking at your information and you see that it is 15% or 20%, what the state chancellor's office wants us to do is to take a look at our practices to ensure that we are in fact not requiring things that serve as a barrier for a variety of different groups. There's no mandatory requirement to stop a recruitment and require that each monitored group be represented at a specific level. Instead, the goal is to take proactive steps to ensure no artificial barriers exist and to move forward with recruitments only after such assessments have been made. So in terms of strategies, what can we do? Well, we can make sure that we're reviewing our district policies and procedures to ensure that no non-job related requirements are included. We also want to make sure that our job announcements are clear and appropriate for the work that is going to be performed. We want to make sure that we increase our advertising budget, so we are sending our recruitments to those areas where it is most likely that underrepresented groups will come in contact. We also want to make sure that we develop methods of outreach. And we want to evaluate our curricular offerings and make sure that there is nothing there that would compel a member of a traditionally monitored group to not want to be with us. We need to provide training for our current faculty and staff on the value of a diverse workforce, and we need to provide equal employment opportunity training for participants in recruitment, screening, and interviewing. And in relation to that particular recommendation, I will say to you that in the past 6 to 8 months, we have held 2 EEO trainings, and thus far we have had very extensive attendance at those trainings, and we have trained, I believe, in excess of 160 employees. So that is going very well, and we need to continue to do things of that sort. So before I finish my little presentation, I just want to read something to you. Diversity moves the organization beyond the issue of access and pushes it towards acceptance and appreciation of the varied and wonderful differences that each of us brings to the workplace. By acknowledging and exploring these differences in a safe, positive, and nurturing environment, we enhance understanding of different groups and begin to move from tolerance to celebration of the rich dimensions of diversity contained within each individual and in groups. And this, in turn, creates greater harmony in the workplace, thus allowing us to focus on our true mission, that of student learning and success. Before I finish my little presentation, I want to take a moment to publicly thank the Office of Human Resources for their hard work in making every effort to get this EEO plan out there. The fact of the matter is, I could not operate without them. I'm very grateful for them, and every day I'm honored to be in their presence. Thank you.
Thank you for being here
Questions?
today, Ms. Hampton. Is there any questions? Mr. Frazier?
So I just have a couple, and I'll start by prefacing by saying I think this is fantastic, the work that you've put into this. Clearly, this is a big step in the right direction, and so thank you for doing it. I do want to question the idea that this is just a boilerplate, though, because there's a lot of this that seems very, not just specific to PCC, but really built around what we're actually going to be doing. I think it's not just a financial statement we submit to the Chancellor's office. It's a lot more than that. And so I had a couple of questions, specifically on sections, about unlawful harassment and discrimination and sexual harassment. Those are, so the steps that are outlined and the items that are contained within there are currently district policy, is that correct? Or is this something that we will need to do at some point?
No, this is something that we will need to approve.
So what's in the plan right now that says, so this is how someone with a complaint about unlawful harassment, this is how they do that? That's stuff that we will still need to, through policy and then later procedures, implement?
Well, how to file the complaint is a procedure.
Sure.
The policy will have to be approved. The procedure does not.
But so they don't exist currently in the right form?
Correct.
Okay. And then, I would just ask a couple of sort of general things. We talk about the ombudsperson and the diversity officer
Yes.
in the plan. And I
Yes.
think that it's great that we're doing that. I noticed that the sort of the separation between the two was a bit vague. And I think that, if this is going to be how we implement these two positions, that would be an area where I'd like to see a bit more clarity on it.
Okay.
The second thing is rather specific. It only mentions, and I only just noticed this, I've read it about 5 times, so you'll excuse me if I'm just picking up on things. It mentions, if you're a respondent to a complaint, and you're a member of a collective bargaining group, you have the right to representation.
Yes.
What about those people who are not part of collective bargaining units, such as a student worker or just a student or someone who doesn't have a collective bargaining unit? What kind of representation or resources would they be given?
I'm not aware that they would be given any particular resources, but what I am aware of is that they are entitled to bring a rep with them if they so choose.
And I think, because we only mention a representative of the collective bargaining unit, maybe that's something we'd clarify. And my final thing would be, I know that we're only dealing with the bare minimum here, and it's a massive leap that we're just getting to this point. So certainly no criticism. I just hope that as we move forward, that not only do we implement processes, but we as a district have some plan around inclusion that aren't just the required monitored groups. I'm specifically talking about LGBT individuals and how we protect and celebrate and enhance those groups. I think it's one thing to talk about what we have to do, but I think if we look at the trends, and this was mentioned by President Orozco today at the AS meeting, and I hadn't thought of it this way, that we're moving, as the law moves forward, we're going to get there at some point, so it's probably better that we get in front of that. And then the final comment would be a bigger question. So we're looking at diversity on the campus as a whole. How does that affect departments? So one of the things that was brought up today was the idea of, if we, as a campus, increase our diversity in faculty, for example, but they're all in one area. And so the other 4 schools don't have any diversity, but we've done it so much in one area, our numbers as a whole have bumped up. Are we really achieving what we should be doing? And how does the plan address that?
I would agree with you. The plan doesn't specifically address department by department, but one of the discussions that we have had is around the idea of assessing what is going on department by department. In the past, we haven't been able to do that, but with the implementation of stronger tools that have the capability of allowing us to keep data in that way, we will be able to make that determination and then do very targeted and focused things to address those areas where there are problems.
Thank you.
Ms. Wah?
Yes, I also wanted to thank Ms. Hampton for this, the EO plan. I think we all know that this is long overdue, and I think you did a very nice job. A lot of my questions were basically data-driven, and so I really appreciate it. Trustee Brown and I had a chance to talk with Dr. Rocha ahead about some of our concerns, which long before the plan was actually scheduled for the agenda. And so he offered that we might have subsequent meetings to discuss this more fully, and as you said, there are policies that need to be developed. And so I wanted to maybe suggest that Dr. Mann, under the policy chair, that we take a look at some of these things. And one of the things that kind of stands out for me is we talk about the diversity of our campus, and in truth, we are a minority-majority campus, and that was actually discussed at the AS meeting today, and yet we don't have a representative workforce. And so what are those things that we need to look at? So I wanted to maybe throw that out and see if Dr. Mann would take a look at that. More work for you, Dr. Mann.
Dr. Mann?
Yeah, I have 3 or 4 comments, but I will begin by saying, we do have policies on sexual harassment and non-discrimination and so on. And so I think maybe, I thought I heard you say we don't have the policy. We do have the policy. Maybe that's the processes that we don't have. I think we also have a procedure for addressing complaints if you look in the catalog. But we certainly, this will be something that the committee the policy committee will look at and address this. But I do have a couple of other, well, first of all, statements and then comments. I understand how nice it is to bind something, but it makes me a little nervous to see that this plan was approved before the board actually acted on it. March 5th says here. That's assuming that we're going to adopt it and approve it. It might have been nice to have printed that last page later, assuming that you have some cantankerous members.
That's the printer's fault.
Oh, yeah, I'm sure we'll just look at the printer. The second thing I would like to comment on, and I'm sure that this is a standard kind of comment, is not in any way critical of the college or the staff, but the the numbers that the chancellor's office, this 15% of these minority different groups has given as what we evaluate ourselves against are crazy. I mean, they have no relation to what we're doing. And I worked for many years as an EEO officer. I know what the federal guidelines require is people who are qualified. It's not that hard to get this data, but we're required to use what the chancellor's office has. Every senior college in this whole area has this data for each of these job groups. So and again, the percentages are just make no sense. And one of the things that concerns me most of all is they mask, and you don't call it underutilization now, what do they call it?
Underrepresentation.
They mask underrepresentation. So for example, if we just look at the percentage in the population, which is not a valid measure, but much more valid than 15% for everything. And the PCC district, at the last census, 30.8% of our district would be Asian, which would be Asian and combined Pacific Islanders. And we have 13% if you put those two together. That is really, really serious underrepresentation. But if you use 15%, it's not so bad. And the same thing with Latino. If you look at by the way, I'm getting these numbers from our redistricting consultant who did the analysis by district and just add them all up. 25.39% of our district is Latino, which is significantly higher than the 15%. And so our representation on campus is 19%. And again, there is, I think, a masking of the underrepresentation. For African Americans, only 6.8% of the district is African American. Wouldn't have such an effect there because we only have 10% and so on. So I guess my point is, I know we have to do this as a requirement, and the fact that the Chancellor's Office cannot create data, which they should have been able to do, and would not have been that hard to have done, and then we're required to use the data that they create, I think is it can have a negative effect. So I hope that we really keep aware of the fact that these 15 numbers are artificial, very not related to reality, but if we're not meeting those 15%, we really have a problem.
Yeah, thank you, Dr. Mann. Mr. Thompson.
I assume this is what we're proposing to send to comply with our requirement?
Yes.
And yet this is not what you went through with the presentation.
I'm sorry, what?
This is not what you have used with the subject of your PowerPoint presentation.
Yes, it is.
I think what she did this evening was to.
Yeah, I just
you answered
summarized
questions,
it.
right? But
Yes, I summarized it.
well, but it has no bearing with this, does it? What
Yes,
you've
it does.
shown?
I addressed specific questions that were posed.
Right. But the specific questions are probably part of the plan, but they are not the overall plan. They're not what we're being asked to approve and adopt.
I think, if I may, Mr. Thompson, as a result of the series of questions that Executive Director Hampton received, the decision was made to present this type of presentation, and I think the Executive Director made the assumption that the board members had reviewed the proposal and the hard copy of the PowerPoint. But if that was not the case, we can certainly brief you.
Well, that's not really the point, I guess. What is the deadline for doing this, for submitting this?
Oh, we've passed that. It was 2012, before I ever got here, actually.
We've been out of compliance for 6 years. But the other thing, Trustee Thompson, this has been in your packet since last Friday. So if you'd like to have Terry go through it, we'll take the time to go through it and do that. I think what Terry was trying to do was to respond directly to trustees' questions that had been raised so that she could shorten the presentation, since the entire proposal has been in front of the board. But if you would like Ms. Hampton to go through the entire presentation now, we can do that.
Well, I would, I understand what she's done, But the reality is, and yes, we've had this since Friday, and we can go through all this on our own and all that too. But what we're here at a public meeting to let the public know what the plan is so that they can be aware of it and let us know as well, and then we are proposed to, or being asked to vote upon it. Since there's no deadline for it, I don't see why we're rushing to get it out this evening. I think we ought to take more time and go through this in a more thoughtful way so that we know exactly what we're being submitting and why, and do that. So
Well, if you want to go through this, it is here, I've read it. If you want to go through this
So have I.
evening, do the directors want to do that?
Well,
I've read it.
I've read it. I read it very carefully.
I've read it very carefully several times, and I'll have some input when it's my turn.
Well, it's your turn, because we're going to,
Okay.
you're going to be here all night.
Okay, well, fine. I would like to respectfully disagree that we've had an opportunity to analyze this. It didn't arrive at my house, I am told, until Saturday. It's 67 pages long. It's a very important matter. Equal opportunity, lack of, stopping harassment, stopping discrimination. A 67-page document. I had no notice that this was going to be on the agenda at this meeting. I've been through it very, very thoroughly. I had two working days prior to today.
I did receive an agenda, and it was on the agenda, so I don't understand that comment.
The package, I'm told, was delivered to my house on Saturday. Okay, I was out of town. I got to it on Saturday evening. That is insufficient time for us to thoroughly go through something as complicated and as important as this. Okay? Now, having gone through it a number of times, having a long meeting with members of the staff yesterday, I still have points to make. One is the point that Dr. Mann made. The 15% number is just imaginary. I asked about this at our meeting yesterday, and I was not satisfied with the explanation for the derivation of it. This morning, I received a link to the 2006 model plan that was kind of the template for this, and that was 120-some pages long. I went through that today, and there are things that are in the model plan that aren't in this plan. I don't know why, but 15% is not in there. Okay, that was 2006. It does mention that there should be data provided by the Chancellor's office for figuring out the underrepresentation. Well, okay, the last numbers they had apparently were from 2001, okay? So that's not any good. This 15% figure is absolutely imaginary. It's misleading. We could have achievements for representation or inclusion of groups that are far below 15% of the population or the workforce or any other way you want to collect the data, the demographic data, and we would look like we're out of compliance. It would look like we have to do more work. I would point out that from the U.S. Census, American Indian, Alaskan Native, Pasadena is 0.6%, 1.5% in LA County, 1% in California. In our district, we don't have separate information from that, at least not that I could find. But supposedly, if we go by this plan that we're being asked to approve, if they're less than 15%, if they're less than 15 times their representation of the population, we're saying that we're out of compliance and we're not having a representative workforce. It's just crazy. Now, I went through the 2006 model plan. It talks about the 80% and the significant underrepresentation. It also refers to I can't remember the word of art they use, the proportion of the population represented by people in different groups. They identify that as a reasonable threshold for or a goal for achievement. But I would be, perfectly amenable to going along with this report if we had something like they have in this 2006 model plan. Now, there are ways to get that type of data other than from the Chancellor's office. There are all kinds of databases. I know people that have them right there in their office. So If we go to the approach they have in the model plan, where our thresholds and our goals, if you will, reflect the actual representation in the population or the workforce, then, this is a fine way to go about it. And the procedures and the filing complaints and what the rights of the various parties are and all that looks fine. But this 15% figure is just misleading. I have asked people that are familiar with these sorts of plans, and they're completely taken aback. It makes no sense to put a figure in there that we all acknowledge doesn't represent anything that's real. So, and just for point of information, in Pasadena Area Community College District, again, Dr. Mann referred to this out of the redistricting, 6.9% black, African American, we've got 30.9% Asian, we have 25.4 Hispanic. These were figures out of the redistricting task force reports. And 2 years ago, Jeff Baum happened to mention to this board, my predecessor, that the area that he represented, the one I represent, is by a significant margin the most diverse and balanced area in the whole district. So, I take this very seriously. We've got to do it right. I don't see any reason to move ahead tonight and approve this, because what is in the report here is not what was described with explanation in the slides. I think we'd be making a terrible mistake. I've also got a concern that there are data figures in the report that just cannot be accurate. If a mistake was made or something, but and there was a discussion about this at the meeting that I had yesterday. But the report shows that in 2010, according to self-reporting, PCC has 15 people of Asian who self-identify as Asian out of 1,500 employees. 15. It's up to 3% in 2012. It's 3%, which means 45. Now, I'm certain that more than 45 people in the entire workforce of Pasadena Community College are going to self-identify themselves as Asian. So, we've got to we've got to get the numbers right if we're going to be making a decision to adopt a plan with figures and data and examples and all that. So, those are my two main concerns.
Mr. Frazier, and then I'm going to ask the board what they would like to do this evening.
So what I'm hearing is actually, in my mind, really positive, in that we want a plan that's going to really reflect our district and not just be a boilerplate. And I think that shows really a commitment to doing this right, and I think that's a good thing. So I have two questions. What is the consequence for us not having a plan in place? Because you said we've been out of compliance.
We're going to have accreditation problems.
So what is that's the first part of my question is, what is the consequence?
Well, again, Terry especially should be congratulated for bringing this forward at this time. The district has not had a plan for over 8 years. It wasn't until this administration charged the Human Resources Department to do this that we have a plan at all. If we do not have an EEO plan during an accreditation self-study year, it would be a serious breach of the standard, and we would also disable the college from receiving EEO funds from the State Chancellor's Office. I would further say I deeply respect Trustee Selvage's comments and all the trustees' comments. If President Fellow calls for a vote, I will deeply respect his vote, whatever that may be. But this is the administration's recommendation. We have no other recommendation to give you. The talk about the statistics is all quite relevant, okay? Quite relevant. I think in any plan that we've submitted to the Chancellor's Office of this kind, as Trustee Mann has pointed out, okay, you can, you have all sorts of methodologies that lead to all sorts of different kinds of statistics. The methodology in Title V is quite clear that when any group, and let's be clear, we're talking about primarily African Americans, and Hispanics. When any group falls beneath 80% of the projected representation, then you have a problem. That doesn't mean the police are going to come, as Terry clearly explained, but it means that you have a gap, all right? What could happen without a plan is that a member of the public can come forward and say, why don't you have a plan? And why aren't you taking steps, vigorous steps, to try and close the gap? So I think the whatever methodology on the statistics you want to use, there is no denying the statistics that we have a majority minority student population. 80% of our students are minority, and that certainly 80% of our faculty, staff are not minority. We have a ways to go in that, especially, and let's be clear, in the area of African Americans and Hispanics. So we can, I would ask with all due respect to the board, to just give the administration a vote of up or down, because we have no further work that we can contemplate to do on this plan. Now, Terry will be glad to make the entire presentation again, if you wish, but that's where we are.
If I could just, follow up to my question, because I had a second part to it. And so if we were to submit this plan now, so I've heard that there are some accreditation and some compliance issues. So, Director Hampton, if we were to submit this plan today, is there anything that precludes us from, at a predetermined point, a month, 2 months, a year from now, from submitting a revision that more clearly meets the requirements?
No, there is nothing that would preclude that.
And so, as a point of parliamentary inquiry, really, for the president of the board, would we, as a board, be able to approve this plan while then requiring a revision come back within a time frame, and that we would submit that revision, say, 2 months from now, with certain requirements that it more match our district, population? Is that something that's even possible before I even suggest it?
Oh, anything's possible. Mr. Salvage, and then we have to get to...
Right, yeah. I also wanted to mention that after reviewing the 2006 plan and template and trying to sort things out, I was able to reach a senior attorney at the Chancellor's office. The material that was sent to me, or the link, covered 2006. I still couldn't figure out what the criteria were, where this 15% came from. I called the Chancellor's office. I spoke with the senior attorney. Her name is Julia, I think, Blair. And she doesn't know anything about a 15% figure. And she sent me several documents. She sent me a link to 2010 Board of Governors agenda package that talks about this topic. I'm not going to go through all that. I have a September 2013 document from the Chancellor's office talking about equal employment opportunity, and it kind of gets to this matter of these percentages, or how do you figure out whether a group is representative or represented in the workforce. It's not entirely clear. And there's another document from October 2013 that was also sent to me by Ms. Blair to try and help me understand what's going on up there in the office. But it's just not clear to me at all. And the idea that we would approve a document tonight, just to approve a document tonight with a provision that will fix it and make it correct, some time from now, I think is an extremely poor approach. And I don't think that what we have here is a all or nothing, approve this or we don't approve anything.
Ms. Wah.
Just point of clarification. I also had issues about the data, but I saw this as a two-part process. One is we're really approving a plan and a structure to move forward, and the data is the data. So as Director Hampton has said, they had what they had, and that was one of the reasons I suggested that we then move some of this to the policy committee and have under Dr. Mann, and that we take a look at what the board thinks are the right policies for us to accomplish our goals for our students and for our success. So I do think that there's time for us to still involve other communities and give input to correct the data and make it more accurate. But I think right now, what we could do is look at this as just approving the structure and the plan.
Well, I do want to again say, the administration is very proud of this plan. We're not in the slightest bit defensive about it. It's been developed with great care by many experts, and it has been consulted exhaustively in the shared governance, which is why you have shared governance, okay? So that you get the opinions and the advice and counsel. So again, all right, I don't want to give the board the impression that we have some more work to do on this plan. We would appreciate, with all due respect to the board, that you give the administration guidance in the form of whether you approve this plan, which the administration is recommending to you as an excellent plan that would comply with one of the most important college goals. It is the recommendation of the superintendent president and the administration. There's no rush to judgment here. But on the issue of diversity, it is the recommendation of the superintendent president that this college should not go longer than the 8 years it has already gone out of compliance with an EEO plan. But if the board chooses to vote the plan down, we will accept that with equanimity. So that's all we're asking. We respect all views, but this is our best work.
Just for clarification, so if the board chooses to approve the plan with the proviso that there be some additional work done for data and for policy development, are you saying, when you say that no further work needs to be done, are you saying there won't be any more work done?
You're making a proviso that is operational. What you're saying is to the executive director of human resources, is something that is operationally unnecessary to say. You already heard the executive director Hampton say that this is a plan, all right? And then you have planning, and that starting tomorrow we would start work on the methodology and so on. So if the board chooses to make that as a proviso, sure, that's not a problem. My concern is to protect the district and to send a clear message to the faculty, staff, students, and public community that we will no longer be out of compliance without an EEO plan. So that is my strongest possible recommendation, but I will accept a vote of disapproval with equanimity.
And if I may add, as the assistant superintendent responsible for this area, we staff have heard clearly the issues, and there is in fact a mapping, a data issue that we discovered today on the Asian Pacific Islander thing, and so there are things that we can address, and I think Executive Director Hampton was trying to communicate pretty much what Dr. Mann was communicating in another way, which is we understand that the plan needs to address much more specifically our district, but also our students and what we represent here. So I think we're all kind of talking about the same thing, but I do agree strongly that we are out of compliance. We have been out of compliance for 8 years. By getting this approved, we have a plan that we will work on operationally, as is the responsibility of staff to do that. So I agree with Dr. Rocha. It's obviously the board's prerogative to do what you feel is best for the district, and I would not argue that point. But as the senior administrator responsible for this area, we've heard the board's concerns, and I think we can address them.
Dr. Mann?
Yeah, the only concern that I have, I mean, I'm ready to approve this tonight. The only concern I have is with this 15%, which I assume we got from the chancellor's office. But the truth of the matter is, using general population data is no more relevant than 15%, because the only number that the federal government recognizes as appropriate is qualified, people who are qualified. So if you're talking about faculty, you would look at what is our recruitment area, and our basic requirement is an MA. So let's say that our recruitment area is California. What percentage of people in California who are interested in teaching English, my discipline, and have an MA, are African Americans say. That information is readily available. That's the only significant number. But if that's not the way the chancellor's office does it, so I'm really ready to, support this, because I assume the chancellor's office threw up their hands and said, we've got, 72 districts. That means we're going to have to go into 72 different labor forces and generate all this data, and we don't have the capacity to do it.
I can get it for you by zip code.
Pardon me?
I know people that can provide it to you by zip code.
Well, let me just finish. We don't hire by zip code, but let me finish. So, and if we don't have that kind of data, which I think is the legitimate data we have, then if this is what the chancellor's office is giving us, is 15%, then I would willing to approve it with the understanding that maybe we should try to get the chancellor's office to come up with this, because I thought I heard somewhere that we're required to use the data from the chancellor's office.
That is correct.
We're required to use the data from the chancellor's office, so it really doesn't matter whether it's accurate or not, as long as we've got the data from the chancellor's office. And if we don't, then I have a concern.
I just want to say, as someone who deals with this in every search at the university, Dr. Mann is 100% correct. And I have to say, I'm rather shocked that we've been so lax. And I give you and thank you for bringing this forward at this time.
So I move up that we adopt this
And I second it.
We
document
have a
today.
motion to adopt by trustee Waugh and a second by,
Brown.
excuse me,
Discussion?
trustee Brown. And
Even
a
if he had the lights, he would get the
second
names
by
wrong.
Dr. Mann. Further discussion?
Yeah, I think there's, this is an example of the proverbial two trains passing in the night here and not paying attention or listening to each other. I don't think anybody is quarreling or suggesting that we don't need to put together a plan. I think there are two things. I think there's been lots of comments made, lots of points made as to ways in which it can be improved and made better. The second thing is that I think it's unrealistic. Yeah, I know we got the package on a Friday night or something like that, and I can nothing to do but to read 67 pages or whatever the number is that Dr. Selvage was talking about and get questions answered and all that. But again, we serve the public, and there is no reason in the world not to take the time, whether it be this evening, although I wouldn't want to do it tonight particularly, and we can go through the program, go through the plan rather, that we're being asked to approve so that the public knows what we're voting on. I don't see any reason in the world not to do that. I don't think that's being critical. We very much appreciate the effort that's gone into this. That's not the point at all. But I think there are improvements that can be made, and I don't see the rationale or the reason we need to move forward in a bit of a hurry and approve this, understanding we got to come back in a month's time or whatever it may be and amend it. That's just not the way that I think we ought to do business.
Thank you. Any final comments?
Yes.
Mr. Martin, I haven't, or Mr. Salvage, and then Mr. Martin, we haven't heard from you.
I agree with a lot of the concerns, especially on the 15%, and I still don't quite understand the 80% rule, but I'm not going to ask you to explain it again. The one thing I will say is the 7-point action plan, I think, is a good one. At the end of the day, it comes down to a 7-point action plan, and I'm one who emphatically for many years here has stated that when the process begins and the applications come in, it's got to be a perfectly level playing field for everyone who's applying for the job. This supports that. This also supports a better understanding of diversity and actively recruiting in minority areas. And I think that's phenomenal. We want to actively recruit in minority areas and get more applicants for every position. So at the end of the day, I think the 15% rule is crazy. I think the district or by zip code or not statistics would be a better comparison. But I think the action plan that we are implementing in this plan to move the district forward is a fair plan and a good plan that doesn't discriminate against anyone. So I'm going to support the plan as something on the books because I like the 7-point action plan moving forward, and, let's, I know, you guys are going to try to clean up the data and get it right. I know you will, so that's where I am.
Thank you, Mr. Martin. Mr. Salvage?
Yes, well, again, I was told by the senior attorney in the general counsel's office that 15% is not a standard from the office. She gave me alternatives that she said she understood were what we should use in lieu of the data from way back in 2001, which used to be a requirement. You used to have to use the 2001 data, which was based on the 2000 census. That's what the Chancellor's office was using back in 2006. Footnote on page 35. The 2010 census, of course, would be different, but by then everything else was, going crazy, and they decided they weren't going to hold districts to those figures. So, yeah, all of a sudden there weren't the figures that we're supposed to depend upon, but there is guidance, which I was sent today by email from a senior attorney in the Chancellor's office, and said, here is what she understands we're supposed to use as a guideline. Not just some figure out of the air.
Okay, thank you. The question has been called, and I will now entertain a vote. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Question? Aye.
I'm calling the question.
The question has been called. We have to vote on calling the question. So all in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
No?
The motion carries.
Wait, now, were you voting on calling the question, or are you voting on the motion?
Oh, calling on the question.
Okay, all right.
President Fellow, point of order. I'm sorry, under the new rules of the Brown Act, you need to identify the individuals who voted in which way on the record.
Okay, it's Mr. Martin, Dr. Mann, Ms. Waugh, Trustee Brown, and the President. Okay, now we have a motion on the floor, which is Trustee Brown and I think Dr. Martin. All in favor, trustee vote?
Abstain.
Aye.
Okay, all in favor, would you raise your hand? Trustee Martin, Trustee Mann, Trustee Waugh, Trustee Brown, Trustee Fellow. Opposed? Trustee Thompson, Trustee Selvage. The motion carries. Thank you. And I do thank you, Ms. Hampton, because I'm very shocked that we haven't had one in place. And also, I'd like to add, I think it's important for all faculty and staff to, as you move along, should have to take an online course in sexual harassment and in civility.
I agree.
Thank you. At other universities.
President Fellow, before we move on from this topic, I just have one question. Hopefully it's yes or no. One of the things in the plan that we just approved says that we ask faculty and staff when they are hired a diversity question. My question would be, do we use diversity outcomes as part of the evaluative process?
We answered that question in our consultation meeting this morning with you.
Yes, we
Dr.
did.
Bell, what was the answer to that question?
Trustee Fraser, the answer to the question with respect to the faculty, we do not, that is not a component of a strict evaluation of the faculty at any point, whether they're adjunct, whether they're tenure track, or in a 3-year cycle for tenured faculty.
So the answer is no.
Correct.
Okay.
Okay. Item L this evening is adoption of resolution number 517, authorizing refinancing of the Pasadena Area Community College District's 2014 general obligation refunding bonds, and it's recommended that the Board of Trustees adopt this resolution in connection with the general obligation bond fundings. Is there any more information to add?
No, there isn't. We are asking for your authorization to refinance the bonds. This has actually been before the board for 5 months. And we had a lengthy study session on it last time, 2 weeks ago. So again, what this item does is to authorize the administration to go forward and refinance the Measure P bonds at a lower interest rate with a specified, minimum floor of savings, so that that money can essentially be returned to the taxpayers of the district. And that's the item. So if you have any further questions, Mr. Miller will be glad to respond.
The wishes of the trustees, Dr. Mann.
I move approval. Second.
We have a motion by Dr. Mann, a second by Ms. Waugh. Is there further discussion? Mr. Salvage?
Right, there are a couple of things. I've had discussions with the RBC people to go over the more specifics of the proposed refunding, or as most people would think of it as refinancing. And I'm satisfied that what they presented at the previous meeting looks all correct. And there are two points that I'd like to raise here. It is common practice for public agencies that are undertaking financing with bonds such as this to have a what is known in the industry as a financial advisor to advise them. RBC is in fact not an advisor to the district. They're prohibited by law under Dodd-Frank from representing themselves as being advisors. They do not have a fiduciary duty. They may have, and put an acknowledgement of this qualification in their PowerPoint that they presented last month, that they may have financial interests that are different from the colleges. Now, the role of a financial advisor in a bond issue, and this is $20-some million, so we need to be, take it pretty seriously. The idea of a financial advisor is to advise the public entity and to act in their interest and their interest alone. Now, I don't know if there has been a financial advisor on this up till now. I don't know if we've had one. If we haven't had one, it would be a good idea if we consider having a what is called in the industry a pricing advisor, somebody who at the moment, leading up to the moment when the whole package is complete and you're ready to hit the market and take the interest rates as they are, to advise the college. And again, doing it as a fiduciary to the college and with the college's and only the college's interest in mind in providing that advice. There's one other point that I would suggest, and that is that if we approve the resolution, that we consider providing some parameters within which that approval stands. The common standard, which I have verified from a couple of sources now, is about a 3% savings on the outstanding balance for your bonds. The people at RBC did a run to indicate how much the interest rates would have to swing in order for the in order for the savings to drop down to that level. I mean, there's a point at which you don't get enough benefit to incur all the costs and the brain damage of doing a reissuance. And I wouldn't expect that we would hit that, but I think that we ought to provide some parameters to whoever the person in the district is who's going to be working and be the last representative of the district to make a call on this. So there are two things that I'm talking about. One is we consider having a, at this point in the process, if we don't have a financial advisor, to at least have a pricing advisor so that we can say to the district and our constituents that we had an independent advice, somebody whose advice was based only on our best financial interests and had a fiduciary relationship with us before we signed on the dotted line and went through with the transaction.
Mr. Miller, did you have a
Yes, thank you, Trustee Selvage and President Fellow. I learned of the concern about the financial advisor about 15 minutes before the board meeting started, so I did have an opportunity to look into the history of that in relation to our district. And since the 2002 Measure P series bonds were put into effect, we have not had a financial advisor, and what the district has depended upon was the advice of RBC, the advice of the bond counsel. In this case, we have bond counsel here tonight. Through the process of refunding, we worked through the county treasurer, the county council, the county auditor controller. We have bond counsel, as I mentioned. We have the manager of the underwriter, which is RBC Capital Markets. We have the underwriters council, and then we have the paying agent and the rating agency. That said, I further inquired as to what the history of other districts were in this particular situation. And at least in common practice in community college districts locally, the vast majority of them working through RBC do not choose to use a financial advisor. It's not to say that they shouldn't, but they do not. So, for example, Long Beach didn't, and Cerritos didn't, and some others didn't. LA County Office of Education, Santa Monica does, POSD does not. So I then inquired as to what the cost of that would be, and depending upon what you asked them to do and how large and what have you, it could be anywhere from $25,000 to $75,000. However, a pricing agent is probably in the $10,000 to $15,000 range if we were to go that route. I would also say that we can do whatever the board wants us to do, but we should do it in due haste. We should move forward as quickly as possible because we did miss the window on the last go-around. I think the last time we talked about this, we were looking at a savings of approximately $3.8 million, if I recall correctly. Is that right, Rod? Is that the number? Something along those lines, I believe. Yeah, about $3.8 million, and then the interest rate spiked up, and then we were out of money. We out of the money, as the expression goes, as Dr. Selvage knows. And then we had this window pop up again, and now we're looking at an opportunity for about 1.4 million. So we need to move quickly in that regard. On the question of the 3%, it's certainly my responsibility as your chief financial officer, working with our staff to not hit the button until we know for sure that, in fact, we are in good shape. And then that process, if we say yes, it takes roughly 2 days before it is funded, and we do have an opportunity to say no up until the last moment. Now, if we did that, we'd incur about a $32,000 expense, but we would only say yes if we were relatively confident and we were at that point where we were above the 3% threshold that Dr. Selvage refers to, because we too were aware of the 3% threshold. Staff appreciates Dr. Selvage's assistance. We know that you've been on the phone quite a bit with RBC and with our bond counsel. We appreciate that diligent work. And fortunately, those folks were kind enough to share with us the responses they provided. So we too had a chance to look at the analysis, and it further encourages us and assures us that RBC continues to be an excellent resource. All that said, it's still staff's strong recommendation that we move forward tonight. We certainly now have the understanding about a financial advisor. Should this board go forward, and basically we're specifically asking that we're going to be refinancing the Series B 2006 bonds, a relatively small chunk of the whole thing. But if we go forward into this business again, going forward into other bonds, if the board should ever choose to do that, we certainly would look closely at a financial advisor as we look towards much larger numbers. Thank you.
Okay, we have a motion and a second on the floor. Do you have a quick question?
Yes. So I just wanted to just be clear that if we approve this, we're not actually hitting the big red button of refinance. We're authorizing the administration to, when it feels right, to hit that big red button of refinance. Is that correct?
That's correct.
Okay, just checking.
That's correct.
Okay, we have more questions. Mr. Thompson.
From Mr. Miller's comments, I'm not clear. Are you going to be consulting with a financial advisor or the other category of finance and advice?
Mr. Thompson, maybe I can help give the Cliff's Note version of what Mr. Miller said. Our financial advisor has been and always has been our chief business officer, which is Mr. Miller himself. What Mr. Miller said in his answer is that at the other community college districts, the chief financial officer exercises that role because the exercise that role in this case would add expense to the district and expense to the taxpayers. We brought this to the board last spring, and I've always brought this to the board under the same practice that Mr. Miller described. We had a study session on just this very issue, and we were here for over an hour on this issue 2 weeks ago. So again, the administration feels we are fully prepared, and the issue to focus on, again, is whether the board wishes to return this money to the taxpayers as quickly as possible or not. We missed that opportunity in the spring. It is my strongest recommendation to approve, but I will respect your vote so that the administration can go forward and refinance the bonds so that we can save the taxpayers some money.
Mr. Selvage?
Right, to follow up on Mr. Miller's points, I agree with the price that he quoted for a pricing advisor. I've got a question. You mentioned a 2-day window. Do we have interest rate change exposure during that 2 days? Is that what you're saying, or we don't?
It locks into place, Rod, as I understand it, the interest rates lock into place. So, and let me introduce Rod, if you would, for a quick question. This is Mr. Rod Carter with RBC Capital. He has been a longtime advisor to the district on these matters. So maybe we can quickly respond to Dr. Selvage's question, please.
No, there's no exposure to the district until they sign the bond purchase agreement and the rates are locked in.
Okay, the 2-day time period that would cost us $35 if we backed out doesn't have to do with making a decision that, wait a minute, the interest rates have moved too much?
The 2 days is the pricing of the bonds, setting the interest rates is a 2-day process.
Right.
I call the
Okay.
question.
Okay, and your people told me that the transaction could be completed in maybe 40 days from now or a little more? Does that sound about right?
Correct.
Yeah, yeah. Nothing that I suggested here would have an impact on that. So.
Call the question.
Okay. Thank you. We have a call for the question. Those in favor of this, please raise your hand. We have a majority, and we have a motion on the floor. Trustee vote?
Aye.
All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Those, raise your hand if you're saying aye, so we can. Trustee
I
Mann?
guess I'm going to say I didn't get a chance to ask my
Trustee
question.
Martin, Trustee Waugh, Trustee
I had
Brown,
my hand up
Trustee
before she
Fellow.
called the question.
In the motion, all in, opposed, no? Abstentions? Motion passes. Item M this evening deals with policy statements, and these policies were compared to model policies provided by the Community College League of California and reviewed by the Board of Trustees Subcommittee on Accreditation and Board Policy Review. The first policy is 1100. It has been designated the Pasadena Area Community College District. It states that the name is the property of the district and no person shall, without permission of the Board of Trustees, use the name or the facilities of the district or abbreviation of them to employ, indicate, or otherwise suggest that an organization, product, or service is connected or affiliated with or endorsed or favored, supported or opposed by the district. Dr. Mann, do you have anything else to add to that?
Well, actually, I have a question. The facility on the Rosemead is not here. Is there a reason for that?
Yeah, on which one, 1100?
1100. It says the district consists of the following college or education centers. There are 3 mentioned, including the Child Development Center, but not the.
I think we can respond to that quickly, Dr. Roche, if you'd like. Rosemead is neither designated as a campus or a center yet. It's a site in which we offer instruction.
That answers my question. Okay, I have nothing else to say. We did not discuss this at the study session, but it is just boilerplate and required.
Trustee Mann, could I make a request out on the high wire here? First of all, I want to thank you and the board committee for your extensive work to produce these policies. I want to say that this has been through the shared governance, and there is the strongest possible approval for 1100 and for 2410. But since you said we didn't discuss this at the study session, we had taken this out for consultation, just recently had a college council meeting. And Crystal Koros and I have consulted. Mr. Cairo raised I think everybody's in agreement that the policy is in good shape, but on the second page, 4B, the role of the public, Mr. Cairo raised some questions, and Mr. Martin has raised some questions. Since this isn't a matter of urgency, I'd ask for the opportunity for Crystal to take this back into the shop, so to speak, and to approve Board Policy 1100, and for us to bring back next time 2410.
I'd like to move approval of Board Policy 1100.
Okay, we have a motion from Mr. Frazier, a second from Ms. Wah.
Are we talking about BP 2410?
Yes. No, I'm sorry. I just heard, we're just talking about the approval of 1110.
1110.
1100.
1100, yes, okay.
Yes.
And I'm asking, I'm making a request of
Okay,
Trustee Mann that we...
if these concerns, whoops, I just killed my microphone. If these concerns come up in the consultation process,
Yeah.
that's fine. But I do want us to bring them back in April because it sets up our
Oh,
structure.
absolutely.
Okay, trustee?
Aye.
All in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed, motion carries unanimously. In 2410, we will pull. Okay, number N.
And I don't know, let's see. Carlos, do you want to just say on behalf of the classified staff for item N, what item N is, about which there can possibly be nothing but unanimous consent?
President
Carlos?
Fellow? Is there room for another comment on if 2410 is being voted?
No, we're deferring.
Okay, go ahead. Thank you.
It's, item N is actually our recommendation for the board to send to the Chancellor's office, our recommendation for the Classified Employee of the Year, which is going to be an honorarium in honor of David Krause, who is a longtime servant at PCC for 29 plus years. And we'd be honored if the board approved his nomination on the Classified Center's behalf as a Classified Employee of the Year for 2013-2014.
Thank you. I'll entertain a motion. We have a motion from Mr. Thompson and second from Ms. Wah. Further discussion?
Just briefly, the Associated Students discussed this today. So if there's a minute, I'd like President Orozco to just briefly express why they decided to take an action of support. I think it would be a good, it would speak to his character and why, for the public, we should do this.
Fine, I think we have it, but go ahead, if you have a minute.
A minute.
1 minute.
I don't want to take longer than I have to. So we were in a we actually went through and approved this for today of our support for item N. We think Dave Krause is a wonderful resource on campus. He's been a great inspiration to a lot of students. Specifically, one of my board members, Ms. Sarah Belknap, who did say that he, I'm pretty sure Trustee Frazier could get into detail, but who said that he was an extreme asset to her, as well as his services here on to the Pasadena City College campus students. So that's what we did.
Thank you. He was a wonderful man. He had participated. We talked tonight about this march in March. He was there from 2009 to 2013. Do we have a motion?
We do.
Okay.
I made the
All in
motion
favor
under-
signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed, motion carries. Information items, finally.
Okay, in calling up the entire nursing program, if you would, come forward to the podium. And as they do, I should also point out before I formally introduce Dean Freud, that I was informed by President Cairo that the Academic Senate has taken action in its own way to support the nursing baccalaureate, and they'll be producing information to that effect. So with that, I do, this item is an important item of information. It's not, this is not mere, pro forma. We've asked Barbara here and Diane Moore, who's here, and to speak to SB 850, which is the so-called Marty Block bill, which would, for the first time, authorize community colleges to offer the bachelor's degree in applied subjects, and of course, one of them would be nursing, our RN program. And then Barbara will also, as we continue our master planning and our visioning sessions, and Barbara will also be speaking to the facilities planning needs of the School of Allied Health Sciences, broadly construed. So, Barbara, welcome.
Okay, thank you very much. Good evening, everybody. I'll try to make this quick so that we're not here too late tonight. And this is just as an information session, and I'm sure that you'll have a lot of questions, and I hope I'll be able to answer most of them this evening. If not, I'll be happy to send more information in the weeks coming. So Senator Marty Block has introduced Senate Bill 850, which, as Dr. Rocha just said, would authorize community colleges in California to offer a bachelor's degree. It would be considered, as the legislation is proposed, a pilot study over the course of the next 8 years, where each college would be authorized to offer one bachelor's degree. And so in a task force that Dr. Bell convened some time ago with the instructional deans, we had a lot of deliberations about where would we be prepared to respond to this challenge. And because Pasadena City College was the first community college in California to offer an associate degree in nursing, we felt that we still want to be first again and be the first to offer a bachelor's degree. And so we're saying that we are always first and we want to stay in that position. Just for a brief history for you all, in 1924, the School of Nursing of Pasadena Hospital, which is now Huntington Memorial Hospital, and Pasadena Junior College, now PCC, affiliated. By 1930, the School of Nursing emerged as a special nursing department of Pasadena Junior College, and by the 50s, the nursing program was fully integrated, and we offered the associate degree in nursing, the first in California. This is actually a photograph of one of our nursing students from the 50s. It's now 2014 and time for a change. Our nursing faculty, some of whom I cannot believe are actually here this evening because they will be up again after they sleep and get up at 4 a.m. in order to start clinicals in the morning. Our nursing faculty vote was 100% in favor of moving ahead with a Bachelor of Science in Nursing at PCC. We were very, very pleased that after a phenomenal presentation by Dr. Diane Moore, who's also in the back with the faculty, to the Academic Senate, that the Academic Senate just last week also voted to approve this moving forward. Our faculty fully support the proposal because healthcare delivery changes are requiring more education to keep up with the changing job market. Employers want a BSN graduate. Many of our clinical contracts are now actually requiring BSN schools. 22 other states have proven success with the BSN at the community college. California should not be the last to join this group. PCC has always been at the forefront, and we want to stay there. So why a Bachelor of Science in Nursing? Healthcare facilities are preferentially and in many areas exclusively hiring the BSN graduate. Only 50% of our own associate degree nursing graduates are employed within 18 months after graduation. The NCLEX has become significantly harder, and this is a reflection of the current job requirements. That's our state licensing examination. We need a BSN further because the Institute of Medicine, in their landmark report in 2010, declared that the healthcare community is going to need a workforce of nurses that are 80% BSN prepared by 2020. That doesn't give us a whole lot of time even to just get curriculum and instruction to move this curriculum through for approval. Only 55% of nurses are prepared at the BSN or graduate degree level. So we've got an awful lot of nurses to get at that level by 2020. And research demonstrates that the higher degree is linked with better patient outcomes. We also are looking at the needs for a BSN because this is what hospitals are asking for in relationship to magnet status, and you may have heard some of those terms regarding hospitals in the community. The American Nurses Association strongly recommends having the BSN as entry into practice. Hospitals are seeking magnet status because it's the gold seal of approval on the quality of nursing care in a facility. Magnet status then is strongly linked to the number of nursing staff who have the BSN or higher. So what will it take for us to be able to offer a BSN? Well, academic senate approval, that's already checked off the list. Board of Trustees approval, passage of legislation SB 850, so please send your letters of support, and I'll be happy to send you templates that we've drafted with our letter writing campaign for faculty and students here at PCC. It will require a curriculum upgrade. We'll have approximately 35 units of credit to be offering in addition to what we currently offer at the associate degree level. We'll need an upgrade of technology. We will need dedicated space upgrade and upgrades of the physical facility. Specifically, with regards to facilities and space, we need smart classrooms. We need computer facilities. We are really desperate for these, and I'll give a little more information when I finish this slide specifically. But we're looking for computer facilities that will allow us to do computerized testing, those that will mirror what students will be faced with when they have to sit for the NCLEX exam. We need those computers for electronic health record training. All of the hospitals have moved to electronic health records, and yet our nursing students are documenting everything on paper and pencil. We don't have those resources available to us. And further, we would like more computer resources in order to bring in online classes. We need library facilities that are in the health science class area. And we are in desperate need of a new simulation center to learn safe patient care before we actually have our students taking care of patients in the hospital. The RN has the ultimate responsibility for the patient safety. She's the last person to deliver the medication therapy and therefore is the one who is responsible. We want to ensure our graduates provide safe, effective care now and in the ever-changing future. I'm sure you would agree with that. The curriculum upgrade, as I mentioned, the sample, we would be looking at upgrades in a few of the non-nursing courses, chemistry, statistics, and some critical thinking upgrades. And then in nursing, we have several courses that would be required that deal with research, nursing research, informatics, leadership, community health, some of the areas that we do not offer classes at the ADN level. We would need to hire new faculty to meet the ACEN standards, such that 25% of our nursing faculty would need to be doctorally prepared. I will tell you that we are almost at that mark already. We have 2 nursing faculty who hold the doctorate already. We have 2 who are currently enrolled in doctoral programs, and there are 2 that I just wrote letters of recommendation for as applicants to doctoral programs as well. You also have a nursing program director who is doctorally prepared, and the dean is also a doctorally prepared nurse. So we actually meet this criteria already. And then we need BRN approval, that's the Board of Registered Nursing for California, and then our ACEN accreditation for the BSN. We are an applicant for ACEN accreditation now for our ADN program, and that's something that Dr. Moore and the faculty are already working for that. This would be an extension of that process. And actually, before we get to the questions, I did just want to and I didn't want to put these numbers up on a slide because they might be a little scary at first, and we may want to retalk that bond measure as I start letting you know what we are requesting in terms of facilities and space needs. As I said, we need a simulation center specifically for nursing. These are high-fidelity simulation centers that we are requesting. It is actually a requirement by our accreditation board that we engage in high-fidelity simulation. We did get some information from the Board of Nursing when they visited our temporary facility when we were relocated from the U building to the CEC campus, that we are not up to standard, and that when they come to do the site visit for us, we're up for reaccreditation next year, that if we are not showing progress, significant progress towards that, that they will cite us for that. And we're looking for, it's going to be about $800,000 to fully upgrade a simulation center to the degree that the board is requiring. We do have opportunities, though, to develop revenue enhancement if we have a state-of-the-art simulation center by contracting with some of our local hospitals to do continuing education for their staff. So it's not as bad as it seems when I give you that figure. But we're also looking for simulation center for the dental hygiene program as well, and their figure is coming in at around $350,000 to get the simulation equipment that they need. And again, these are external accreditation board requirements that are coming up. We've moved to the electronic health record because dental hygiene actually offers a community clinic where we offer services to the community for dental hygiene. We are being required now to go paperless. It's part of the HIPAA new guidelines, and so we're going to need computer equipment for that clinic in order to maintain electronic health records and such. We will need computers to support the actual high-fidelity mannequins in order to record student performance and then allow debriefing following those performances. We need to be able to have computer equipment in order for the students to complete bedside charting in the electronic health record. We actually will need a separate medication room so that faculty can observe students preparing medications and documenting those in an electronic health record. We need the computers for computerized testing. We have 350 to 400 students on the CEC campus in the nursing, rad tech, and medical assisting programs. And then on the main campus, we have about another 75 to 80 students between the 3 dental programs. The lab that's at CEC for nursing, and so I'll go back to that number, 350 to 400 students, so about 320 of those are nursing. Our computer lab has 22 computers, and on a good day, 20 of them are working. So we really are far behind on that, and the faculty are to be applauded for the wonderful scheduling and flexibility and collegiality that they have with each other, sharing that one lab across the 3 programs. But it gets old fast, and it doesn't allow us an opportunity to have an open lab availability. So students can only get into the lab when the class is scheduled, because the next time there's another class in it. So we don't have that open access availability that we really would need to have. We do have new regulations that are requiring online testing, so not only do we need the computers, but we need the secure internet in order to access the testing sites, and these are going to mirror the same kinds of programs, again, that our licensing tests look like. We have in the nursing program 80 students per class that have to access those computers, and that's usually for 2 to 4 hours at a time. And as I said, our computer room has 22 computers in it, and so we wind up bringing them in groups, which is a lot more difficult for faculty to have to plan and monitor and keep things safe, if you will. We need additional computer labs for the other programs and access, and I promise this is the last page. And then we do have an opportunity, though, with the upgrading and the increase in those computers and the space for those, again, to do some revenue enhancement. We could become a test center for ATI in administering the TEAS test, which is the required test by the Chancellor's office that we administer to incoming students that predicts predict success. ATI would set a fee with us, and we, like other community colleges, can actually charge a fee above that. And this is not just for students that are necessarily applying to the PCC nursing program. Other students that are applying to other programs could take the test here at PCC. And so there might be a way to recapture some of the funds that would be spent on the computers. I think that's about it. I mean, we need more rooms for simulation labs and skills labs. We need rooms for conferences and meetings. I would dearly love to get my faculty out of the bungalows so that they have space where they have large enough offices to be able to counsel students privately. We right now have to schedule the one little conference room that we do have. So I need a building, and I'm hoping that you'll all be able to help us get to that.
I'd like to see you in a satellite campus next to a hospital, like Methodist Hospital.
That would be fantastic.
Off the goal line. Questions, Ms.
Any
Wah?
questions?
Thank you, Dr. Freund. I have two things to say, and one questions. But one is, I'm not sure why, I mean, this is great that we have an informational package, but I'm not sure why it appeared on the trustees' agenda. There's a lot of policy issues, certainly Leno's bill on CCSF, the adult education bills that have been out, and so I would have liked to, I guess I'm asking about the process. I don't know why this did not come before the legislative committee under Dr. Mann so that we could have discussed this more thoroughly. So I hope that we will have a chance to do that, and that would be my recommendation, because I do think that this is going to require a lot more discussion by the board. The other thing I have to say is, this issue has, the nursing, the baccalaureate degree had come up when Trustee Frazier and I were up at the league conference, in the league meetings, and the chancellor had a chance to speak. I don't know that everyone is totally bought in to having two-year colleges issue baccalaureate degrees. And in fact, even when we were at the ACCT conference up in Washington, Trustee Mann and I had a chance to just briefly talk to Jean Torgerson, who was the past president of the ACCT and is also a nurse, and is totally, I can't say that they're totally bought in. And even in discussions, I have a very close relationship with Cal State LA, and I know you do too. And even in discussions with the nursing program over there, I don't know that they're bought in. So what I would really like to see is maybe under the legislative committee that we start to have some more robust discussions with the board and also with community members so that we understand what the issues are and the pros and cons. And the other thing that also concerns me is I have a lot of nurses in my family. In fact, my daughter-in-law, after graduating, took her about 8 months to finally get a job. She was one of 23 picked from 1,500 applicants. So it took her a while to get a job, and even in the nursing programs that I see all throughout the community colleges, we have waiting lines of 1,000 to 3,000 to 4,000 people. And now we're taking on the baccalaureate. So I'm very concerned about those, and I hope we'll have some more robust discussions to address those issues and see how we mitigate those.
Thank you. Dr. Mann.
I just have a couple of concerns in addition to that. First of all, it's my understanding that the bill Marty Block is carrying does not include nursing as one of the four-year degrees. Removed it? What's
Trustee
the
Mann and Trustee Wah, I spoke with our representative, Patrick McCallum, this afternoon on this very issue, and he told me, and I quote, Senator Block is pushing the bill, and it's all but certain that it will pass and include nursing.
So he is going to put it back in.
I made clear to him, that's Patrick McCallum's information as of this afternoon, and I made clear to him what PCC's preference would be to be included in that bill.
The other concern I have was you did discuss the accreditation for the nursing program, but it's also my understanding that there is a major concern that the ACCJC accreditation, because California is the only area, or the Western is the only area where you have two associations. And so everywhere else, the one association can accredit 2-year and 4-year colleges. Here, we have a accreditation association that only does 2-year colleges, and it's an accreditation association that's not very well regarded in Washington and Sacramento, certainly not in San Francisco, up and down the state. And so it was my understanding, again, based on the information that we were given, that in March, there was going to be a decision from the Department of Education as to whether or not it would be possible for the Junior College Accreditation Association to do this accreditation, or would the Senior College Accreditation have to do it? And I think what's important about this, having worked as Trustee Fellow does at a 4-year university, the accreditation standards are very different, as is the process. So you simply can't, I mean, I think this is a major issue. And have you heard, President Rocha, anything about any resolution of this? So,
Yeah, oh, I'm sorry.
no, so I guess that Senator Block may carry a bill, but if these programs can't get accredited, or if it affects the college's accreditation, I think that's a real issue, particularly since accreditation is being looked at so seriously, I might say, by Congress. So I think this is something we have to keep in mind.
And I might suggest that we check maybe directly with Senator Block's office, because I was at the conference where Senator Block stood up and said he was removing nursing from this bill because he got so much pushback. So I hope that we would check directly with his office.
Mr. Frazier?
And in fact, I'll just follow that up because I did check directly with his office last week, and the indication was that nursing, probably not by language, but wouldn't be included. Would not be included. And that would not be a specific removal, but there would still be a language around the unnecessary duplication of local 4 years that already exist. Right. I just want to make sure that, because I don't think the district's taken a position on SB 850 yet. And I think that's something that we should do at some point, especially since everyone seems to be talking about it. So I'd like to second, the suggestion that the legislative committee look at this and look at it soon. I know that when I spoke to Marty Block's office, or Senator Block's office, that they really wanted to know where we stood on it, and obviously we don't stand anywhere on it yet, and so it would be good to have that discussion, I think, first. And the presentation's great, and I think you highlighted 2 different issues, actually. One is the baccalaureate degree, but the second is also your need to get supplies and equipment to ensure that your current program remains accredited. Am I correct?
Well, I was asked to do 2 presentations, exactly.
Right,
yes.
and so I want to make sure, because the first one, I think, the baccalaureate degree may sound great on paper, but there are a lot of things that we need to work out first. The second would be, if the nursing program as it currently stands is not necessarily in danger, but has some accreditation issues that we know about, I'd like to know what we're going to do to address those. I mean, you gave a budget description there. How are we going to do it?
But if I can correct you, it's not just the nursing program.
And the dental hygiene, I'm sorry.
I have 9 programs in the School of Allied Health.
Right.
Yeah, no,
And-
there's,
and if I-
and again, I would say that the block bill is almost irrelevant, okay, whether the bill passes or not. What I'd like us to focus on in Barbara's presentation is what's the best thing to do for the registered nursing program moving forward. And what she has reported today is that associate degree nurses or LVNs or RNs are increasingly unable to find employment. That is the issue. So therefore, I strongly support us moving forward with the consideration of the BSN for the sake of our students who are in that program. Now, none of this, by the way, is going to happen tomorrow. Okay, this is the beginning of a long process. Trustee Mann speaks correctly. In fact, tongue only, partly in cheek. I support the bill strongly because if it got us out of ACCJC, I'm all for it. But we do have, certainly, we have the key, a lot of the administrative and accreditation issues can be addressed and will be addressed and have been addressed in 23 other states. But the key qualification is that you have doctorally trained faculty, okay? We already have that. That's why our program is of such high quality. But what Dean Freund is reporting to you is that our graduates in our RN program are increasingly non-competitive. Not tomorrow, but today, our clinical sites are canceling our contracts, okay? Correct? Okay.
Yes, I didn't mention that, but
And
we
that-
did just lose
that
a
our facilities for nursing have been woefully inadequate for 15 years, okay? And that is something that we are trying to address in the master facilities plan that we're moving forward with right now.
And I'll just add very quickly, if I may, that as part of our Centennial Facilities Master Planning process, some of you are aware you're all aware that we did a campus-wide visioning session on February 7th and a community one on February 8th. Well, due to the success of that, we've determined now that we're going to do that for all of our schools. So we have one scheduled for the Health Sciences School, the School of Health Sciences, in late March. And at that meeting, it will be facilitated, and at that meeting, we will be looking at short-term needs, short-term defined as what we might try to do by this coming fall, mid and long-term needs that would fit into perhaps a facilities master plan project. But we do know there are some things that we have to deal with, Trustee Frazier, and we are going to begin to address those as quickly as we can. We have some Measure P funding that we're going to be investing very quickly into the dental areas, and we recognize the needs to do better for other health sciences faculty in some of these labs and some of this technology in particular.
Thank you. This is just an introduction this evening. We have a long way to go and perhaps study sessions, and I thank you for being here.
Thank you.
Thank you, Barbara.
Superintendent's report.
I'm going to be very quick. I will ask Valerie Wardlaw to come up very quickly. My superintendent's report is focused on two words, hope and happiness. One, I do want to concur with my colleague, President Cairo, who reported that we did meet at CAPM. While our differences are real and sharp, there was good dialogue, and I look forward to continuing dialogue. And I am ever hopeful. When you can get in the room and talk, there's a possibility of progress, and I'm grateful for that, and I'm grateful for Mr. Cairo saying that. And happiness is not a puff piece. We wanted to show, maybe, this is going to take 3 minutes and 48 seconds, okay? First of all, this gives me a long overdue opportunity for all of us to thank Valerie Wardlaw for the unbelievable work that she has been doing in the last 4 months in behalf of the college to support the foundation and the college in all things public relations and marketing. So we wanted to give Valerie 3 minutes and 48 seconds to show one of her products, okay, which was commissioned by Enrollment Management and Student Services. This is not a puff piece, but this is actually a student recruitment piece that goes out on social media. And I should report that this week by, what was it, nerd.com,
Yes.
the national ranking, nerd.com ranked PCC, up with universities, the 7th ranked college in the country for this happy video. It has received ridiculous number of hits, about
16,889
hits. And in case the trustees, no more commentary, 3 minutes and 48 seconds, and then we move on.
All right.
Okay.
It might seem crazy what I'm about to say. Sunshine, she's here, you can take a break. I'm a hot air balloon that could go to space. With the air, like I don't care, baby, by the way. Because I'm happy. Clap along if you
That's my report, President Fellow. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Rocha. This is the time for announcements by shared governance. The Associated Students President, Mr. Roscoe.
So I'll try to make this very quick. I wrote these down so that way I'd make it very quick. So first I'd like to personally thank Trustee Wah for coming to our Associated Students meeting today. Hope it wasn't too painful to sit through. And for inviting me to attend a screening and discussion on February 24th of a documentary, Misrepresentation. The discussion was beautiful, and it brought together women of all backgrounds and job titles together to discuss problems in society and women and how they are represented. I was on the speaker panel, and I was a little intimidated because I was the only male. But we actually got through in the conversation, and it was wonderful information, and the feedback that I got from my discussion was very well taken. Second, we have an education, I don't know if you guys know this, we have an education major fair April 17th on campus. We invite all of you to attend to give your support for this event. What we're doing is we're having educators from all departments, which include faculty, staff, and managers, are invited to converse and connect with students as they explore their possibilities for transfer with a major. Data shows that students who have declared a major are more likely to finish college quicker and succeed when picking a job with that specific major. I also independently encourage students to pick a major that they want to major in and not just randomly pick one from a hat. Third thing, on Monday, March 3rd, we had our lobby team visit Sacramento. We spoke with Mike Gatto on issues regarding AB 1453, with which he wanted student support for. Other offices visited that day were Carol Liu, Jimmy Gomez, Chris Holden, Kevin De Leon, and Ed Hernandez. On March 12th, we are also sending our lobby team to Washington, D.C. They have meetings scheduled with Adam Schiff, Barbara Boxer, Linda Sanchez, Diane Feinstein, and Xavier Becerra. And they will also be attending the USSA conference that week. So thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Altamirano, classified staff.
This down. Well, the Senate just wants to thank the board for its approval today of Dave Krause as a nomination for the California Community College Employee of the Year for one. The ways in which the Senate is continuing to support our staff is through a staff scholarship that we'll be announcing shortly, as well as we submitted development grants through the foundation to help support events for the professional development for the classified staff. We provided input for changes to the EMP that are more relevant for shared governance, as well as we're finalizing our schedule for the classified day in May, which again, we're hoping is going to be a great turnout for our staff on wellness and how to be productive in the workplace. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Cairo, Academic Senate.
Good evening once again. As you know, the Senate did approve the request to support the baccalaureate here on campus. We also are now preparing for Senate elections. We'll be commencing after spring break. The Senate has also approved funding for the Senate breakfast, and with that funding, we now will begin preparations for it. And all of you will you'll be receiving our request to attend. Thank you. Also, we are proceeding with the technical visit, with many senators looking forward to attend. And finally, the board recently approved the SASE funds for, I think it was last month, but there was no information given as to how to apply. And I was asked by various senators if you can provide us that information because they're interested in applying for that fund that was approved last month. Thank you very much.
Thank you. And finally, Dr. Douglas, Management Association.
Thank you. Just a couple things. One, we had 4 managers attending an enrollment, management, and student retention workshop yesterday. It was very informative. We also have 4 managers that are going to CIO training next week. And so that, I'm sure, will be informative as well. And I also wanted to thank the Academy of Professional Learning for coming to our management team monthly meeting today and sharing some of the things they shared with us. Unfortunately, they left, but we wanted to thank them. So thank you.
Thank you. Trustees, you have in front of you the future meeting dates. Is there any changes or comments? Or okay.
Where are we?
Yes. One, I was going to make this as an announcement, but the May 7th date, the Pasadena Educational Foundation that night is going to be having its spring event, and the speaker is going to be Edward James Olmos. And we're very excited about that, and would very much like to be able to have the PCC people able to attend. And so I've talked with Mark about it, and also Tony, and hopefully we'll be able to find a way to shift our meeting to some other date and free up that night so that we can all go to the rotunda in front of Pasadena City Hall and listen to Mr. Olmos and enjoy another terrific evening. So,
Thank you. There'll be other announcements on this, but we're looking at maybe around May 14th instead of the 7th. Thank you, Mr. Thompson. Mr. Frazier?
Just a question. Normally we have on the third Wednesday of April a joint meeting with PUSD. Is that not happening this year?
No, it's not. On the recommendation of PUSD, Superintendent President, they're not prepared for a joint meeting. Actually, the input from last year's meeting that was that the two staffs have much important work to do on the PUSD and PCC partnership, and Superintendent Gundry has proposed, instead of a ceremonial meeting, which is what our meetings have been, is a retreat, a working retreat for the two staffs. So there won't be a PUSD meeting.
Thank you. Is there any future agenda items?
Do we not do the trustees?
We're going to
report?
get to that. I
Oh, okay,
skipped
no,
it. But
okay.
Mr. Martin,
None, thank you.
Dr. Mann,
No, thank you.
Ms. Wah,
For future agenda items?
no, director's comments.
Oh, wait, I thought we were doing future agenda items. I do have something.
Nobody said they had anything for the future. So.
Okay, and this includes a correction to the minutes. I just happened to notice that on the minutes for February 5th, page 4, it says on the legislative adequacy report, it says Washington DC visit January 29th. That should be February 10th through the 14th, and that was the AACT meeting. And what I wanted to report was that several of us, Trustee Thompson, Trustee Brown, Trustee Waugh, and I, and Trustee Frazier all attended. No?
And Brown.
What did I say?
She said Brown.
I said Brown. Attended the ACCT meeting, legislative seminar meeting in February, and President Rocha was there for part of the meeting, and then we were all snowed in and had a delightful 3 days in the Capitol when the metro wasn't running and all the federal buildings were closed and the buses weren't running, and we got to know that hotel very, very well. And even the McDonald's wasn't serving food. So but we did attend. It was had some, I think, very important meetings with our elected representatives and also with some very high-level officials in the administration and the departments of education and labor.
I'm not sure there's any place in the world that's worse to be caught in the snow than Washington, D.C. They're completely unprepared for it.
Like everything else. Ms. Wah.
Okay, well, I do want to thank Patty DeRange Martin and Deans Arnwine and Fettner, who gave the San Bruno Rotarians a tour of both the Vet Center and the Art Center. And the Rotarians are very interested in partnering with PCC and helping community programs. And so it was really great. Jordan kind of beat me to the punch, but I'm really glad that he participated in South Pasadena. And I hope it's an example of, I think, the kinds of outreach that I hope that we in the college will do more in the community, because it really touches the community. And I had just met with South Pasadena this morning, and they wanted me to make sure that Jordan knew how important his input was and how grateful they were for him to come. Also, on a new superintendent for South Pasadena has been selected, so it's Dr. Jeff Yance, who comes from El Segundo. So he'll be taking over. I believe Superintendent Shapiro, I think, will be leaving in end of this month. And then also the International Leadership Foundation will be holding their workshop for training, international leadership training for students, and quite a few of the PCC students will be attending. So I wanted to thank Jack Yang, who's the international leadership coach at PCC. He's done a great job recruiting students and getting them lined up.
Thank you. Ms. Brown.
No report.
Mr. Thompson.
No report.
Mr. Savage.
Yeah, my friend and predecessor in this office, Jeff Baum, called me a few days ago and told me that he had been reappointed to the Board of Governors of the community college system, and he's vice president. Perhaps he'll be president soon. But you should stand PCC in good stead.
Mr. Frazier?
No reports.
Thank you. And just pray there's no war in Russia, because I'm on my way to the Moscow. Okay, we're going to adjourn to closed session.
Is that what he said? I don't know. He's on his way. Our bond prices will get better.